Oh, that's funny. My supervisor is so tired of watching me work. She's like, all right, Joe, go ahead and work without me. And hey, this segment is about how to caulk the top of the corner bead trim between the corner bead and the baseboard. Okay, and yeah, I've done a little bit already. Doesn't that look good? I've got that. I've got the inside corners caulked. I got the outside corners caulked. I don't have anything on the floor. That looks really good, doesn't it? Doesn't that just finish it off? And I've done this back here. I didn't want to do this on video because it was back behind here. It was kind of tricky to do and all that kind of stuff. See how nice and clean that looks? You can do that even if you've never really caulked that much before. Just practice makes perfect, and you can always wipe some off as you go. And see, I did back behind the refrigerator, and I've got that base nicely done. And I believe that when that dries, it's going to be nice and bright white and shiny, just like the baseboard. And I went ahead and did in there. Doesn't that just finish everything off? That looks way better, doesn't it? Without having that gap, and you just use that quarter round. And I went ahead and did the bathroom. I went ahead and did the bathroom too. You know, because I didn't want to get back behind the toilet and stuff and all that. You wouldn't have seen me be able to do that anyways. It was a little tricky to do, but hey, you can do that. And I see I did the inside corners right down to the floor. It doesn't even look like I got any on the floor. I mean, I got a little bit, but I cleaned it up. See there? And I even did the edge of that right there. Didn't get any on the floor. How on earth did I did that? Well, the trick is to have a nice, clean, tight tip and not very big. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and caulk this. That's what this segment is going to be about. I'm going to show you how to caulk that. I'm going to caulk that, and then I'm going to caulk from here on down the hallway. Just these little bits. Boom, 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 and this over here. Now, I'm not going to do this yet because this was the very last thing I did. So I'm going to let that set probably for one more day. I mean, I got everything in here cleaned up and all that. And then I wiped it on down. And man, this one little piece here had raised up at this end. And I didn't know it, and it dried that way, so I pulled it off, and the caulking held pretty good. Scraped it all off, and that's why I've got a couple nails in there. I had one there, and I think when I did that, it kind of raised that just ever so slightly when I put the masking tape down, and then it raised up a little bit more. I had a big gap there. I could have left it, but you know me, I wanted to make it right, so I put some more caulking down there, and I'm letting that dry. And I cleaned all of this, and I had to use a little bit of the WD-40 like I did before. And I also did this with a little bit of WD-40. You just have to, you know, after you take your masking tape off, like I said, you got to feel it with your finger. And then if you feel any sticky spots or anything, you need to clean that off, because you take a dry rag and wipe on that afterwards, and any little bit of sticky spot is you'll see it, because then it will turn brown. You'll be like, okay, now I've got to get that off. Okay, I see what Joe's talking about. Okay, so this still has just a film layer of WD-40 on it. I don't want to caulk over that. I want to let that dry overnight, because I'm not sure if it's still slightly moist with WD-40, if I put the caulking on there, if the caulking is going to dry nice and clean without bubbling up or coming off in certain spots or anything like that. Okay, so this, and this, you know, I'm going to get it all ready today, and then tomorrow I'll caulk it just like I'm going to show you now. If that's what you want to see, stick around. Okay, now real quick, I've already talked to you a little bit about this on what type of caulking I'm using and what type I'm not using. I'm just gonna have some tubes out here. Let me get this pulled out. It's like, does it matter? Does it matter which tube I use? I mean, good grief. Well, yeah, it kind of matters. And I ended up using this stuff here to secure that to the baseboard, and I use that instead of this one. It's the same family of caulking, okay? But this one costs about $1 more a tube, and I thought it was going to take me quite a bit of caulking, and yet it only took me one tube. I used 17. What did I do? 17 pieces, 8 foot long, and I've still got a little bit left in here from about here this way of caulking left. But I use that to put it on. I'm not going to use that to caulk this now because this is designed to be painted over. Even though it's white, it dries flat white and it gets slightly discolored because it's designed to be painted over. This is painter's acrylic latex caulk. That's why they call it painter's, because you're supposed to paint over it, okay? Now, this one here, you don't necessarily have to paint over this. This has latex caulk plus silicone, and it's all-purpose. It's white, and you can use it for all kinds of stuff here. And this is also paintable, and it's flexible and all that kind of stuff for doors, molding, trim, baseboards, windows, all kinds of stuff. But I find that when you use this as your top coat of caulking, even though it's white, even though it has silicone in it, it still has acrylic latex on it too. When it dries, it doesn't dry nice and clean white, and it doesn't dry with a shiny film layer over it. It's kind of flat, and it kind of discolors after it's been on for a little bit. I'm not going to use that. I'm gonna end up, I've decided to use this. I have not used this for caulking on top of baseboard before, but all it is it's gloss white, and it's silicone based. See, advanced siliconized sealant, and it's gloss white, and when it dries, oh, it's good. It still stays nice, bright white, gloss white, and it has a shiny film layer on it. That's what I want, because all my baseboards are painted with the semi-gloss. That trim, even though I didn't paint it, it has a glossy plastic finish over the top of it. It looks like it's been painted, doesn't it? But it hasn't. And I decided this time not to paint it and put it on because it matched pretty close. Now time will tell whether or not that gets scuffed up a whole lot, and if it's hard to clean and all that kind of stuff. I think it's going to be fine, you know. And you know, if it gets some marks on it, I can clean it with my WD-40. I've got some WD-40 there, or I can clean it with anything else. And like I say, I think it's just going to be fine. Okay. And so this is the stuff I'm going to use, and this you use it for kitchens, bath, and plumbing areas, around toilets, around bathtubs, around kitchen sinks. You know, if you have a cast iron sink and stuff like that. And the trick is to have a nice small tip. See how big that tip is? It's not very big, is it? It's hard to see it now because I got to get going with this because I don't want this to dry out on me. But you can see. It's not very big, and this time I decided to be slick. I'm just going to put a black felt tip marker right there. That'll tell me where the high side is, because every once in a while it starts turning without me knowing. Then I have to look at it and see, because you want it, you know, this is cut at an angle. You want to put it on with the angle. You don't want to put it the opposite way or sideways or anything like that. Okay, so I thought, hey, I'll fix you. I'm just gonna put that on, okay? Then I can angle that down and go for it, okay? So that is what I'm gonna use, and it's gonna really look good. You see how it's gonna look there? I've already done this little section. See how nice and clean that looks? And that's gonna stay clean. And because it's glossy, it's got a finish on it. If I were to have used this Alex Plus, the 40, even the 40 year, it would dry and it would be not chalky, but a flat look, and it would kind of discolor after a while. So after a while, you'd look at that and it would look dirty and it would be like, hey, what's going on here? That needs to be painted. I mean, if I use that, then yes, later on down the road, I'd have to say, okay, I'm gonna bite the bullet. I'm gonna have to mask off the floor with some masking tape and paint from here down to get rid of all that. And that's the other thing too. If you end up deciding, you put this quarter round on, and we decided to leave it. Momi thought it looked pretty good, pretty close to the baseboard color. Now, if you wanted to, you could install it the same way I showed you, and you can paint it after you caulk it if you want. Put masking tape down on the floor, you know, a couple rows or one row, and then paint that if you want. And then you could repaint the baseboard just up to this edge, from here on down to your masking tape that you have on the floor. You know, I was gonna end up painting it before I installed it, but she said no, it's fine, let's leave it. So I left it. So I'm hoping that it's gonna stay clean and it's gonna be easy to clean and all that kind of stuff later on down the road. If I decide, and I don't think I'm going to, but you could always paint it again, okay? And look at that. I didn't think I had the tip or that press. I already got some caulking out of there. Okay, let's get on with it and start caulking this baseboard.